This is Oliver. We're at CTYZN Records. Today we're here with David from Nothing If Not. Can you tell us a little bit about your role in the band and how long you guys have been around?
So I am the singer-songwriter of Nothing If Not, and I've kind of written these songs as like folk songs, like originally, and as we went, I met so many like great musicians that I've kind of clicked with musically, and then eventually we got together and made it a band, made it more of a progressive rock type of sound. Yeah, that's pretty much how we've kind of come to be the band.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you guys just released your first single, Isolation, as well, which I've seen has been doing some pretty good numbers. Like, was it 8,000 monthly listeners on Spotify now?
Yeah, around there. Yeah, I think it was because we got added to this classic rock playlist that kind of blew it up. But yeah, it's been really great having that out finally. It's been in the works for like 2 years, so having people listen to it really feels great.
Hiding behind a sequence of topics and algorithm of words. Biding my time till I have to stop it. Some conversations. Isolation, self-perpetuated and unforgiving. 'Cause the motivation will join the population.
So, can you tell us a little more about this album that's coming out? Like, what the time frame has been like working on it?
Yeah, so about, it was 2 years ago now, I finally was able to get, some funding to, create this album. And this album's technically been in the works for, the oldest song on this album's been 8 years old.
Oh, wow, yeah.
As soon as I picked up the guitar, I wrote Background Character, which you can hear in this album. But really, it's been a long process of writing it, and once I was finally able to start, planning to record, I got the band together. I met my guitarist at an open mic. It was funny because I was playing, just the songs as folk songs up there, and Holden, our now guitarist, was kind of just in the crowd, took out his guitar while I was on stage and just started playing to my songs.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and usually sometimes you'll hear you'll get a guy with tambourine. He's like, "Can I jump on?" And he starts playing, and you're like, "Please play on time." But it wasn't like that. You just kind of heard Holden play, and it was like it just felt like it was exactly what that song needed.
Yeah.
And so, right after that, I was like, do you want to be, the guitarist for, this project? I'm just going to go through the members.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's just funny how I was able to meet each one of these members throughout my musical journey, really. Our drummer, Casey, our first drummer that we recorded the album with, he's in a metal band.
Okay.
Provoked, and that's why he had to go off and go on Provoked. Yeah. But I met him through a show that we had at Be Here Now in Muncie. And he did a lot of gigs with many different bands, and I just remember every once in a while, when they let him, when they were like, "All right, Casey, take it away," he just kind of blew everybody out of everybody was like, "What did I just hear?" Then we had our bassist Nick. I met him when I was with a hard rock band.
Okay, yeah.
And he was in another hard rock band, and I just remember hearing the way that he played. And it was jazzy. I was like, "You're not a metal bassist, are you?" And he's like, "No, I've got experience with jazz." So, and eventually we went to Nashville, recorded the main band, and over the course of a year, recording
for sure.
Sometimes it stretches. So yeah, it's been a long process, and we're finally, wrapping up the process of recording and mixing, and we're rolling out the release.
How did the name come about? Nothing If Not. That's such a unique, like, I just love how it sounds. So
Thank you. The name came about, the book of Tao talks about how, we are a part of everything in this world, right? We are attached to the air we breathe. We're made up of the same particles that were in a star,
yeah.
So we basically are nothing if we don't acknowledge that we are everything.
Yeah.
Right? So nothing if not kind of stems from that idea is like nothing if not, and then anything that follows, you are.
Okay.
Right? So you are nothing if not,
Yeah.
and then anything you hear after that, you're a part of that.
That's so awesome. That's so cool. Is that kind of like the inspiration for like the direction you're going with your album? Do you have a concept, I guess?
Yeah. So it is a double-sided conceptual album. So we have 2 albums in the making, and both of them kind of follow this background character in a movie that that has no plot. And this background character is just trying to find their name, and they come to realize they're not the character at all, they're just a camera, and that's kind of at the root of what the philosophy behind the album is.
Okay.
I think really one song that kind of touches on that idea the most is it's False Gods, where it's like a thumb looks at the rest of its hand and pulls the other way until it turns blue.
Okay, yeah. That is so cool. And then, speaking on like your new single and kind of like lyrical content, so this is your like brainchild basically. Like you came up with all the concepts and everything, and you have these amazing musicians along the way too to help add those like elements of just all these different genres. So Isolation in particular, like where is that gonna like fall in the album? Like what's the concept of that song in particular?
So Isolation, it's a bit later in the album, and it's it's that part of the album where the character has kind of seen the system around themselves, and that alienation that they've felt throughout the entire album. You'll see there's no other characters, right? There's one single character, and yet they're somehow the background character.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how are you the background character if there's not a single other character in your story? So Isolation's kind of that acknowledgement. It's like, wait a second, you are the only character.
Yeah.
And that drum solo, the cascading strings around it was just kind of, it was not only because that's kind of where the character goes crazy, is the isolation from the realization of the simulation around them, but also it feels kind of like the simulation of the feeling we felt during the pandemic, at least myself, is like, it's just, you were kind of like in this isolated room, and you just had to believe whatever was on your screen about the world around you, and you're just kind of sitting there with this feeling that everything's falling apart, and yet you still hear those 2 chords from the guitars. It's just over and over again droning, but yet the strings are just surrounding you, and the drum solo makes you feel like there's an explosion, and yet same 2 chords.
Finally, what is like something you can tell people about the show coming up this Friday on the 24th? What should they be looking out for?
Well, I can tell you we are planning something pretty special for this set. A lot more songs than you usually hear from us at our regular sets. We usually jam a while, but For this set, we decided we want to show more of, more of what we kind of haven't shown.
For
You
sure,
know, we
yeah.
have some folk songs in there. We've got some acoustic and electric that we're going to kind of try to mix in.
Yeah.
So.
Super cool. All right, well, thank you for coming out today. Everybody make sure to come out to the show on Friday the 24th. Doors 7 p.m., music starts at 7:30. So thank you for coming.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Whew.